So we've just arrived at Auschwitz and just want to take a moment to take in the solemnity and the sorrow, I guess, of this place, which was one of a number of concentration camps, death camps that was occupied by the Nazis, but the one that's probably best known around the world and kind of the template for all of the others. This is the inside the grounds of Auschwitz, and as you can see there was quite a number of structures on the site. There's probably more than I would have expected actually, and so you can see here all of these barracks would have been places where Jewish prisoners would have been incarcerated until in most cases they were poisoned with Zyklon B and then cremated in the hundreds of thousands. This is the courtyard area in which the roll call took place, and sometimes they'd make the prisoners stand for 12 hours or more to intimidate them and to break their spirit. And this here was a makeshift gallows that was used for public hangings. This is the original wall against which prisoners were shot or hanged. There was a makeshift gallows to the left, which is now inside the barracks, which you can see here. But there's a depiction inside of men being lined up against this wall naked and shot, and that happened to prisoners of war by the thousand against this wall, and it's a very somber experience standing next to it and recognizing what it is and what it represents. This is the death block. There are rows and rows and rows of identical buildings just like this here, but this one in the basement is where Zyklon B was first trialled and was used on some Soviet prisoners of war and some Polish prisoners of war, all of whom died, and it was on the basis of that successful trial that lethal evil gas was then rolled out and used to exterminate millions of people. Also in here are the cells for the people who were on death row, and the living conditions vary from extremely bad to absolutely horrific. There are 4 standing cells which were so small that you could only stand up in them, and it was considered the worst kind of punishment that could be exacted upon anybody. I think the thing which strikes me most about this facility, and it's going to sound like a really strange thing to say, but as you walk through it, is how peaceful and serene it is. And that's not what I expected. I expected it to be an angry, terrible place, and it's not. It's, you know, in the cold hard light of day with warm winter sun and people wandering around, it could be a village in any European town, and I think that's probably a reflection of the fact that it's the evil that people do in places like this that make them what they are. It's not the environment or the surrounding itself. And there's terrible parts of this place. If you go into some of these buildings, you'll find some chambers that were designed for the most horrific of punishment and torture, but the overwhelming here is just one of peacefulness. And I suppose it's stripped of the monsters that occupied this place and murdered so many people. It is what it is. It's just a blank canvas. This scene will be recognisable to most people. It's the entryway into Birkenau death camp, Auschwitz 2 as it was known, which is just a couple of kilometres away from Auschwitz itself. And this track, which is now disused, in fact it only runs another 100 metres or so and then just completely stops, was the original train track in which hundreds of thousands of Jews and other prisoners of war throughout Europe were shipped into the camp, detained, and in some cases killed immediately. And it's just the simplicity and the stark, I guess, functionality of this thing is what makes it so hideous. The train came in here and they were in like cattle on a cattle truck. If you've seen any of the documentaries about Birkenau, you'll know that the trains came through here and out into this open courtyard area here. And if I thought Auschwitz 1 was big, this is enormous. So you can see the barracks spreading as far as the eye can see in that direction, and a large number of them aren't here any longer. They've been destroyed and would have gone again as far as that fence line with the guard posts that way. And then if we pan over here, you'll see exactly the same thing on the other side. So again, the ones in the foreground have largely been destroyed, but if you go down as far as that shed in the background there, and then again as far as the fence line, you can see off into the distance, and you can imagine that filled in with barracks. You can imagine just how large this camp actually was. And unlike Auschwitz, these are much more humble construction. They're wooden, and you can see that they've been put up quickly, and they've been put up with the sole purpose of cramming as many people into them as possible. And it's just an evil place. You can see the platform down there, which is where the train that came in with its prisoners, with its cargo, would have ended up, and they would have dismounted there and been shuffled up in some cases to their barracks, and in other cases directly to the gas chambers to be killed, murdered. And there's that site again. And if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then this has got to be one of the more moving things we've seen on this trip. This is the foundations of the barracks that were here during the time that Birkenau was actually being used as a death camp. And as you can see, they've all gone, but if you look out across that vista, every single one of those chimneys represents a barracks. And I wouldn't even want to try and count them. There are that many of them there. So that will give you some idea of the extent to which this facility was used for murder. Because you can imagine, if you look at the size of these things here, you can imagine that in each case, and you'll see those 2 chimneys for each one, you can imagine that in each case these would have been absolutely packed to the gunnels. And that'll just give you some idea of how much or how many people were crammed into a very small space. Just in front of me there, there's room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 12 just in that very short space there. And it goes all the way down. So if you multiply that by that, you get some concept of how many people were here at any one time.
as long as you hold me in your memory. Remember when your dreams have ended, time can be transcended. Just remember me. I am the one star that keeps burning so brightly. It is the last light to fade into the rising sun. I'm with you whenever you tell my story, for I'm all I've done. Remember, I will still be here as long as you hold me in your memory. Remember me. I am that one voice in the cold wind that whispers, and if you listen, you'll hear me call across the sky. As long as I still can reach out and touch you, that